everybody, Grant Kemp from creativecashflow.com. What I want to talk about now is how you're going to define a good lead. That's one of the things that gets really challenging for people, especially at the beginning, is what are you really looking for in that lead of yours, right? There's so much to consider. So how do you define that good lead? Is it equity? Is it cash flow? Is it the area that it's in? Is it the year built? Is it the type of foundation that you're looking at? What are those items that you need to see? At the end of the day, a motivated seller is what defines your good lead, right? A motivated seller, somebody who needs to get rid of their home. That's the person that you want to be dealing with. That's the person that you will find a deal to work with. If the seller has the desire to sell, you have a way to buy. After watching this whole series here, I mean, that's going to be one of the big things to take away from this, is that now that you've got all these different tools, whatever it is that the seller's situation is, you're going to be able to have something to fit that situation. The only thing that we can't buy is someone who wants to buy, or someone who needs to sell for full retail and they need their money today, right? That's the situation that we can't work with, is a full retail price and I want my money now, right? This isn't J.G. Wentworth. It's not your money and you don't get it now, right? You either have now money or you have later money, right? One of the things that you can do to help with this is download the wants and needs pamphlet, because that's going to be a really good indicator for you. It's going to be a really nice way for you to present to your seller, hey, okay, I know that you want this dollar amount, and I can get you that dollar amount. But if you want that dollar amount, it's going to have to come tomorrow, right? Or, hey, I know you need money right now. That's cool. If you want money right now, then we need a discount. It's kind of like that old adage that you hear of the, you can have it quick or you can have it cheap or you can have it good, right? And choose to. It's what the wants and needs pamphlet is. Everybody has to choose what their priority is and work off of that. If someone is willing to sell for what they owe, contract that property sight unseen, okay? You can download my phone conversation with Gibson. It's one of the phone conversations where I bought a house over the phone, and it just worked out. I said, hey, I think that my students would really benefit from hearing an actual phone conversation. So I hit record on my phone. I said, the next seller call that comes in, I'll record this, we'll see how it goes. And the very next seller call that came in, I bought that house and I bought it over the phone. Because here's the thing, if they are willing to sell for what they owe, they can't give you a better deal. That's the best deal that they can give you. I mean, sure, you can run into a situation where you might have them bring money to the table at closing to pay their loan down, and I've seen people do that as well, but I have personally not ever asked somebody to bring money to pay their loan down at closing. If they're willing to sell it to me for what they owe, that's a subject to property. And I'm going to send them a contract and I'm saying, look, you're willing to sell for what you owe. I'm not here to beat you up about price, because you're giving me the best price that you can give me, and I understand that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to send you a contract through email, through DocuSign, and that's going to be a commitment between both of us. That's going to commit you to say, hey, you are going to sell me the house for this, and I'm going to commit to you saying, hey, I'm looking to buy it. Now, in that, there's going to be an option period, because I still need to actually physically look at the house. I've got to go take a look at it, check on it, make sure that everything is right, and we'll kind of move from there. But I'm going to send you this email right now, and you shoot it to them over DocuSign or whatever other electronic signature software that you have, and you get the contract. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is getting contracts on houses here. We're not here to feel good about going on appointments. We're not here to just drive around for the fun of it. We're here to buy houses, and to buy a house, you got to get the contract. And if somebody gives you a clear yes, like, hey, I am willing to sell for what I owe, contract that house. I want you to watch the whole series to learn about the various rules of thumb. I talk about this a lot in all the videos because, when we're talking about owner financing, you've got to see the whole picture. So, things that I commonly am looking for is the 2x cash rule, being cash flow positive within 18 months, having large equity, getting a quick payoff. But watch the rules of thumb video so that you can really kind of get an idea of what these things mean for you and how that might affect your decision process on one of these deals here. Here's a big thing that you've got to understand, is that your seller is going to give you every bit of information that you need to buy the house, right? It's very rare that you run into a situation where the seller is just holding information back and they don't want to talk to you, because our job is to ask open-ended questions. I used to work, I used to train the district of Apple employees back in the day on sales and how to do that kind of stuff. And one of the big techniques that we were doing there was called lead learning out, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you the answer to anything, but what I am going to do is I'm going to ask enough open-ended questions to where you come up with the idea yourself, right? You hear about the management technique of making sure that the other person comes up with the idea, and then you're like, oh, that's a great idea, even though it was yours. It's basically that. We're leading the learning out. We're going to ask enough open-ended questions that makes the person understand what the situation is that they're in, and then once they arrive at that conclusion with themselves, or we may need to give them a little bit of a pat in the back to boost them along that path, it makes your job in negotiations much easier. You've got to tune in for that motivation of what they're really wanting to see. My favorite question to ask people is, are you willing to sell for what you owe? Okay, this is a question you can ask on the very first phone conversation when they very first call in. It's a very easy, non-confrontational answer that gives you a lot of information, right? Are you willing to sell for what you owe? Either, yeah, I'd sell for what I owe. Boom, contract the house. What do you owe? Let me send you a contract for that, okay? Or they're like, nah, I'm going to need to walk away with something, right? And that's where, as you see in the negotiations video, some other questions pop up. One of my favorite questions on that is, okay, well, what kind of immediate pressing cash needs do you have? Like, do you have like a broken down car or some medical bills that need to be taken care of? Do you have something like that that's an immediate pressing cash need? And if they say yes to that, then you work really hard to cover that cash need. And if they say no to that, then they're negotiating against themselves then. Because then as they start asking for money, you can just be like, well, you told me you didn't have any need for money, right? I don't need to give you anything because you don't have any real cash needs right now, right? You're trying to meet everything that they have. Another motivation point that you're looking for is anything that puts the house over them, where they've got some kind of mental image of this house being over them. One of those being, I just need out from underneath this house. Another one being, I just feel this weight of the home on top of me. Any kind of imagery that says that that house is over them, that is your lead. That's the person that you're identifying that says, okay, this person is ready to sell subject to. This person said that their mortgage feels like this weight that's just on top of their shoulders. Boom, they're ready to sell subject to. Here's a sneak peek of some of the negotiations. When you are talking to them, you need to reiterate things, reiterate their concerns. Wow, that does, yeah, you're really dealing with a lot right there. I totally get it. I understand. Or yeah, this really has piled up on you. I'm sorry it's such an issue. What you're looking for is any of those items that they might bring up themselves where they're saying, like, because you'll run into this. The seller will say something along the lines of, oh man, it's just been so much. It's just piled up. Well, you're going to store that, right? And then here, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, you might throw that same verbiage out at them. You're not going to do it immediately, but you might throw that out maybe 10 minutes later and say, because I understand things pile up on you. It's crazy. It's really hard how all of that stuff works. Well, you're reinforcing the ideas that they've already told you are a reasoning behind why they're selling you this house. So look for those little trigger words. Look for things that are them explaining to you why they're selling the house. This is why open-ended questions are so important. An open-ended question is any question that cannot be answered with yes or no. Okay? I don't want you to ask any yes or no questions basically the entire time. I want you to avoid any time that seller can say no to you for any reason at all. It doesn't matter if the answer no is because, hey, do you want a piece of gum? No. All right, I don't want them to say no the entire time. Open-ended questions. They should, if they're going to say something, you better guarantee it's going to be a yes. That way, at the end of the negotiation, all they've done is say yes the whole time and give you information that you need to make a pitch. And once you have that information, and they've been saying yes the whole time, it just feels natural to them to continue on that yes path with you. Reiterating that you're their guy, that's a big one here. Anytime that you're talking about their stresses, anytime you're talking about what's going on, popping something back in there and being like, hey, this is a lot. I totally get it, but I'm the guy. I'm the guy that's going to be able to take care of this for you. You called the right person. I'm glad that you picked my postcard out of the million that you got because you happened upon the right person, right? Throwing this kind of information out at your seller, this is the stuff that we're basically implanting their opinion of us in them. One of the techniques that you'll see a lot in advertising, if you start paying attention, like billboards, that kind of stuff. The reason why they've got a spokesperson on there is so that they have the phrase on the billboard that says, I chose Atmos Energy and I loved it. So when you read it, you read, I chose Atmos Energy and I loved it. And that gets in your mind, I chose Atmos Energy and I loved it. And so when you get home and you're thinking about an energy company, you're going to say, well, what do I want to do? Well, I want to choose Atmos Energy and I love it, right? That's the reason why they've got spokespeople on there, so that you can identify yourself as that person and they can put a quote in there that makes you start verbalizing in your mind what they want you to say about their company. And I know that might seem obvious to you, but if it does seem obvious to you, I really want you to dissect that, because I really want you to understand there's some pretty, heavy play going on in these very subtle techniques, right? And that's something that you need to enact in your negotiations as well. So what you need to be doing is letting that person know that you're the right person, so that as they're thinking about you, they're saying, oh, that person is the right person. Social cues are huge for people in negotiations. They're really looking for what other people have to say. I mean, there's a big reason why online reviews are so huge. I mean, those of you who shop online, how many of you shop online and how many of you look at reviews? How many go to Yelp before you're going to a restaurant and look at the reviews of that restaurant? You want to see what other people have to say about it. Well, you're not necessarily in a situation when you're in a sales spot in the house talking to your seller where you have somebody else over here that's like, well, yeah, no, I'm really good. Joe, tell them how good I am, right? You can't just pull somebody out and have them talk about that. So you have to find ways to give that proof to them. And that's either through throwing a lot of stuff out here. Hey, I'm the person who's going to be able to help you out here. It's good that you contacted me because I'm going to be the one that deals with all of this stuff once you sign, right? I'm the person, that kind of confidence. Or you can talk about stuff that I like, another thing that I like to do, which is most people that I talk to that are in this situation choose to sell me their house this way. It's a really subtle and it's really easy to say, but that's that social cue that people need to see in order to decide to go with you. One of the things that this bottom quote, I like that a lot. It's good that you contacted me because I'm going to be the one to deal with all of this once you're gone, or once you sign. So while you're talking to this person and they're telling you about all the stresses that they have and oh my gosh, this is this and this and this and this and this, reinforcing, you don't have to do anything again. What you have to do is sign right here, and then all of that stress is mine. You don't have to deal with this ever again. I like that one a lot with subject to, because it's usually the bank keeps calling me and I'm just far behind and I can't get with these payments and the insurance is messed up and blah, 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 and I've got to fix this toilet and oh my gosh, everything is wrong. Well, it's a good thing you contacted me, because my job is to do all of that. Once you sign today, and again, we're using definitive conversation like that, not if you sign, it's once you sign, right? Once you sign today, I'm going to be the guy that takes over on this, and all of that stuff falls on my shoulder from this point forward. We're not ever using if. We're not saying, if this happens. We're saying when you sign, when we close, after we sign, this is what happens the entire time. You're going to spend 45 minutes, an hour saying when we sign, and this is what I'm going to do, and once you've decided to go with me, and it's never a question. We're assuming the sale, right? That's the kind of stuff that gets you into their mind, that makes them, whenever you're at that very last step, decide, you know what, this is the person I want to go with. Let's go ahead and do it. It just feels natural to them because you're working the entire time with these subtle little phrases back in the background that are helping them to come to the conclusion that you're the right person to work with. Who are your common sellers? That's always a really common question. Who is the common sellers? Well, the short answer to that is it's the same people that you're buying houses with every other strategy for. The longer answer is you've got foreclosure leads. I mean, again, that's shooting fish in a barrel. People who have lost their job, they need to sell their house. They don't have an income source anymore to cover these payments. Divorces. People who have moved. Somebody that has 2 homes, they're currently making a payment on 2 different houses, especially, if their other house is far away, maybe they're in another city or even another state. If they're making payments on 2 other houses, it's a great one, because it's like, look, you can't afford to keep both of these houses at the same time. Let me at least just take this stress off of you. Looking at year purchased, I typically find that most of my purchases with subject to happened around 3 or 4 years before I'm buying the property. Okay, that's kind of where I've found the most consistency in the year purchase. Tired landlords. That's a good one, I guess, but I don't really like tired landlords as much, because tired landlords are typically investors and they're going to start bringing up down payments, and I don't want to do a down payment with my acquisition. Again, watch our acquisition series so that you can understand exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about buying free and clear, when I'm talking about buying subject to, all that kind of stuff. But when you're buying from a tired landlord, they're typically going to be the one that says, hey, I want 20% down on this. And if you're paying 20% down on your acquisition, it doesn't always make sense. And usually it does not make sense to pay that, right? So what we are trying to do on down payments on the front end is I'm telling them, hey, typically, whenever I do a down payment, I'm giving people $3,000 to $5,000 up front. because that's true. Typically, if I'm acquiring a property and I'm giving the seller money, it's typically $3,000 to $5,000 up front. There's been one deal where I've bought the house and I gave them $10,000 up front, and that's because they had a bill from a moving company that showed me this person needed $9,980 to move their stuff from this state to another state, and I had lots of equity in the deal. I was going to make lots of cash flow, and it made sense for me at that point in time. But you typically shouldn't have to be coming up out of your pocket with more than $3,000 to $5,000 out of this, because when you're buying subject to, you're fixing their problem, right? They put themselves into a bad situation with not being able to keep up on payments, and it's either they sell to you or they lose the house. So their leverage is really not there. I mean, they've really not got much to stand on to tell you, hey, I need all this money, because what you're doing is you're fixing a foreclosure from showing up on their record. Watch the negotiation series, because I'll tell you exactly how to handle those types of people so that you can get into these houses without having to pay any kind of money down. The Propelio leads, you know, I say this a lot. People just kind of assume that because it's coming from a piece of software that these leads aren't real. They are real leads, and you're silly if you're not using them, because they are the leads that I've built an entire portfolio off of. Similarly to many of the other investors I know around town, you are getting good leads out of that. So to find all of this kind of stuff, if you sign up for Propelio, not only are you going to get the comps and the ability to run your comps for yourself, but those leads are very, very valuable. And I will repeat this every time that I look like a shill for Propelio. I don't get compensated by Propelio. You know, granted, I am in front of this giant banner saying Propelio over and over again, but that's because of the relationship that we had already. I don't get any kind of kickback. We're not doing an affiliated program. I just want you guys to get the best quality that there is out there. And right now, that's Propelio. Here's a big one that I repeat a lot too, but I really want to hammer it into you, is that we are not gamblers. We are investors. Okay, so you've got to get good comps, got to know exactly what your numbers are on these deals before you decide to move forward with it, right? So I really want you to internalize all of this information. You know, I like to give you a shotgun and just, you know, open the fire hose of information and throw it at you so that you can get a full picture of what's going on. One of the big great advantages that you have of this format is that you can rewind, rewatch, go to other videos, really understand and grasp everything that's going on here. But there's a lot going on to deciding on what a good deal is. There's a lot going on to how those negotiations go and how you're going to decide to move forward on one deal versus the other. And it's really important that you watch this entire series to figure those things out and know what you're looking for. So I always want to hear feedback. I always want to know what kind of success stories you're having. So don't forget to reach out to us for that. Keep in touch about it. Find us on Facebook, both creativecashflow.com and propelio.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, all those fun social media things, and keep on learning these videos. And until next time, we'll talk to you then.